Hi, welcome. This is the CaddyInfo.com Cadillac Conversation. We do these on Thursday night. I have with me tonight from the Caddy Info Forum and other forums out and around the Cadillac world, Air Mike.
Hola.
Exactly. We're not going to see Cadillac Jim tonight because reasons, and we're still missing our friend Texas Jim. Hopefully things will calm down in his world and he can get back on with us. Roger Allard, we enjoyed visiting with you. If you're out there watching sometime and want to be back on with us, we would enjoy that. So Mike, I am hot chasing XLRVs this week, and they're dodging.
Yes, I was sad to hear that you missed out on that one.
Yeah, Mike had pointed me at one in Kansas, and I talked to the people, and they said, "Well, it's got an issue. Let us buff the paint on Monday. This last Monday. Let us buff the paint on Monday." And I said, "Well, I'll wait and let you do that, and I'll come look at the car after you've done that." And in the meantime, while they were talking to me, they took a deposit from someone else and sold the car.
Yeah, it don't seem like a good way to do something.
I don't understand the logic there. And I had another local place do kind of the same thing, where they were now, and I still don't understand everything about this, but they had a 2006 XLRV similar to the one in Kansas. It was here in town in Arlington, which is another suburb of Dallas. I called them and I said, you just posted this car on cars.com. It was the very first post. They just put it on the system. And I said, "Are you ready to show the car?" He said, "Yes, I can show the car." I said, "Well, I will be there in about an hour." And he said, "I will look, without a work." I said, "Is there a better time for me to come?" He said, "No, an hour would be good." So while I'm on the way there, he called me and said, "Oh, don't come. We sold the car."
Huh. Well, I guess felt like he was saving you a trip.
Yeah, well, I appreciated him calling. I guess the part where they sold the car after I scheduled an appointment to come look at it surprised me. That it seems to me that they would have called back and said, "Hey, Bruce, we got somebody looking at the car. He's willing to go the ask price. Do you think you're going to buy it today? And what might you offer?"
Right.
Or words to that effect. Now, the other thing that bothers me a little bit is they still have the same car posted for sale.
You talking about the Kansas one or the other one?
The local place. The Kansas one I understand because they just sold the car, yesterday or today. But the local place that called me last Saturday to say, "Don't come, we sold the car," they have that XLRV and another XLRV on the car sites.
Yeah, and they're both gone.
Well, I don't think they have any XLRVs. I could be wrong. And see, I contacted them again and said, "Well, did something happen here? Maybe you didn't sell the car after all. The guy didn't come up with the money. Is this a different car? Do you still have the car for sale?" And the guy acted kind of short with me, right? Like, "I already told you it was sold, so why are you emailing me?"
Because I'm looking for a car.
You're advertising the car.
Yeah.
You say you have a car for sale. But that got me to thinking, probably not this place, but my car places advertise cars they don't have for sale just to get their name out there. You see what I mean? So if the ads are free, they're getting links to their site. So they don't care. Like if you look at their Craigslist ad, it says, "Oh, 2006 XLRV with 70,000 miles on it," which wasn't the one I was looking at. I was looking at one with low miles, but they have this one. And then when you click on the ad, it says, "Hey, we've got 500 cars in stock. Come see us." And so that makes me wonder, are they not?
You just don't know what you want.
Is this should I be doing that with Caddy Info, right? I should be posting a thing that says, "Hey, there's over 325 Cadillac owners that come to Caddy Info," or whatever the real number is, and you could come here and talk about Cadillacs.
Yeah.
And maybe one of them will sell their car to you.
Yeah. You
I
might
didn't,
find just the
it's
car you're
leak bait.
looking for.
So I don't know. I don't know what their thought process is there. So I sent another couple of notes because there were a couple of cars that I wasn't going to look at because I was waiting to finish talking to Kansas. And so now I'm kind of starting over, and we'll see. But there are a couple local non-V XLRs that are in the right range, and they would be a bit cheaper. But now I'm kind of thinking what was really intriguing to me about the one in Kansas is I think it had a header system on it. That's really what was intriguing. The one in Kansas.
Right.
Now, you can put a header on a car, but the fact that the notion that they had already changed out the headers and the cats made that one an interesting car to me because I would like to do more experimentation with the car.
I was on the D3 site the other day and I couldn't find headers for one anymore. I'm not sure you could even get them anymore.
Well, the D3 said lately that they went back into production with them. I don't know perfectly what that means because I don't think D3 was making them in house. I think they were having someone make them for them, but as lately they made it sound like you could still buy some from them. But when they sold them, they were something like $2,500 installed. So much more expensive. Yeah, much more expensive than you might think. Because you might be thinking, well, the metal probably costs $400 or $500, and then the installation's a few hours, and so okay, but it was about twice that.
I knew they were expensive. I actually thought they might have been that price not installed.
Oh, yeah, a fellow that used to work with me out in Los Angeles actually knows those guys. Is friends with the guys at D3, and he kept threatening to take me over there and introduce me and see if we could get a tour of the shop and so on. But I haven't done that. I didn't manage to do that before he swapped jobs, and I haven't gone by there since to see could I just drop in and see what's going on there. But I think their stores there in Los Angeles or one of the suburbs.
It'd be an interesting visit, I would think.
Well, that would be a nice long week. There's an XLRV in Ventura, and so fly into Los Angeles, pick up the car in Ventura, drop it off at D3, spend the week in business meetings, and then drive it home from Los Angeles to Dallas, for a nice 36-hour tour, a break-in tour.
Couldn't hardly have a better week, could you?
Except for the part where you had to work and write checks, and couldn't be better. Couldn't be better. Couldn't be better. So I'm still working now. The fact that the XLRV lost the adaptive cruise control, I really like adaptive cruise control in my wife's ATS, and the wood steering wheel. The wood steering wheel, I wish they had put that in my STSV. Just a little wood at the top. Mm-hmm. And I think if I bent over backwards, I could swap the steering wheels with a non-STSV wheel. And the reason they did that is so you'd have better traction, better grip friction on the wheel on the track, because the wood part really doesn't work as well. But I wish they hadn't. I really like the wood at the top of the steering wheel.
Right.
So, but those are the only things that the ones I've seen where the normal XLR, where the front grille is actually the same color as the body. On some colors, that works better. They didn't do that as on the standard, but I've seen some that were done that way, and I think that works better on some colors. On the red, it doesn't. On the red, the gray grille kind of pops better as a contrast, but
oh, I see. You weren't comparing it to the V.
Not to the mesh. Yeah, I get the mesh, and I like the mesh on mine, and it irritates me when people take non-V STSs or XLRs and put the V grill on them, even though I did that with my CTS back in the day, because I liked that look better, not because I was trying to make it look like the CTS-V.
Yeah, now, as long as people aren't trying to pawn it off as a real one or something, I don't mind it.
Yes. Now, I was a little bit one of because I posted over on the XLR net forum that I was shopping for a car in case somebody was dying to sell their car, and one of the fellows was pointing out Al Jazz, probably correctly, that what I really should plan is once I get the XLR, I won't want to drive my SCSV anymore. I want to take the XLR every day for my my daily commute. Now there's
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, and if you want to participate in the conversation and you have video and so on, then what you do is friend me, circle me on Google Plus, and I'll try and keep a lookout on Google Plus. If you just want to participate, you can participate via the Q&A on the site. In the event, you just hit Q&A and you can get to here that way. Or if you let me know that that's what you want to do, then we'll figure out a way to get you in. Of course, if you know me and you have my cell number, send me a text if you're stuck somewhere, and we'll try and help you get in. So so we'll see. I do like the shorter wheelbase. I think the STSV is a very long car, and the XLR is about 12-inch, almost 12 inches shorter wheelbase. And so I think that, and the fact that it's lighter. Now, do you think the fact that the normal XLR is 200 pounds lighter than the V makes a difference?
No.
For tossing around?
I don't think it would matter for performance.
Now, have you ever driven a regular XLR?
No. When, I started out just like you, I was going to buy XLR, and there's never been a day that there's been plenty of days I said, I'm glad I bought a V. I wouldn't never been happy with the other one.
And Mike drives a 2006 XLR V. I'm shopping. They made the V from 6 through 9, and so I'm shopping for a 6 or 7 or 8, whichever, the best one I can afford. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it was the same deal. I was just going to go for the cheaper one, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, so
I know there's people who you see them have an XLR and they move up to an XLR-V, and I just wouldn't want to waste the time and money. Why not just start out with it?
There you go.
You can't make money on the thing.
Yeah, I certainly think that whatever you spend on these cars, they're not going to appreciate. Although certainly the XLR has depreciated less than the STSs have, because of the whole convertible thing. They made more XLRs than they made of the STSVs, but I don't think I've seen production numbers of just the XLRVs. Have you?
They have them broke down on the XLR net, but I couldn't remember what I saw.
Yeah.
In any case, I think the CTS probably hurts the STSV.
Yeah, once the CTSV came out with the more power, then
you still come with a basic family car, yeah.
Yeah. Then the STSV market kind of went right out because they had a CTSV before, but it was normally aspirated, and the STSV had more features. But and I had the same issue that when I was shopping for my STSV, then I had a lot of pause about should I get a CTSV, an 09 CTSV instead of an 08 STSV, but they were still over $10,000 difference, and it had fewer features. And so, in terms of the electronics, it doesn't have the heads-up display, it didn't have the lane change, lane departure, and blind spot warning. And so I said, well, I'll go with more money and more features. The doesn't cost as much and has more features than, and I'll trade off the power. But I do like the power in the CTSVs, and so.
I guess I say that particularly about the difference in the CTS hurting the STS. I was driving along one day, and I to this day I don't know which car it was, whether it was a CTS or STS. It was nighttime, and it was a black car, and he was kind of wanting to race, do a little playing, and I wanted to, but I was busy and I couldn't. But I didn't know what car it was when it was all done. I still can't tell you if it was STS or CTS. At nighttime, they were too similar.
Yes. And the cost is not that dissimilar. The STSV actually cost more than the CTSV originally, but by the time you got the second generation CTSV is all trimmed out and everything, the cost wasn't that different. You know, brand new, my car was 74,000, I think, something in that range, but of course, thank goodness it fell precipitously so that by the time I bought it, it was somewhat less expensive.
They definitely do that quickly, don't they?
Yeah. So now I do see a 1940s convertible in the neighborhood and not in my neighborhood, but here in Texas for sale. And so I'm still kind of watching that to see what I want to get that instead of the XLR. But I suspect it's the lower price because they haven't they're not showing the reserve yet, that it'll end up being, in the 70s, and I don't want to spend that. And, I'm just concerned that for a weekend car, I want a weekend car I can just get in and go, not a weekend car where you spend the whole weekend looking for parts and putting them on, right?
Right.
Like constantly maintaining the car. I'm hoping I can get an XLR in nicely taken care of condition and can just leave it go. I still think that odd car that I posted on the forums about with the peeling clear coat, I still think that was something more than the sun happened to that car.
Because it wasn't just on the top, was it?
No, it was everywhere. But I still think they got behind to something and got something on that car. Or overspray, they were doing a project or something and got battery acid, or maybe the battery exploded in the car and sucked the clear coat. He has a nice story with it where his mom drove it and now they don't need it anymore and it's for sale, but he doesn't really have a good story on what happened to that clear coat. He just says the clear coat needs to be redone. And I have a local guy that can redo the clear coat, because our friends over at Carroll Custom Cadillac, he does spraying, sprays cars right there in the yard. And I also have him as a mechanic for a restoration of an older car if I could find the right one. But I'm still thinking. Now, my wife said, it was interesting because we were chatting about cars today because she was on her way to California, but I was telling her, I might be on my way to Kansas because still waiting to hear earlier in the day. And she was saying, well, I hope if you're going to get a weekend car, you get one like your Duke Roadster where everywhere we drive it, people wave and take pictures. And I said, well, I'm not sure they're going to do that with the XLR. They did that with the Duke because it was, it looked like an antique. And we could get like a Morgan where it would look like an antique and people would do that, but then I might have to tinker on it quite a bit. Or we could get a Morgan three-wheeler, which would be more expensive, but then I'd have to, then we'd have to sit shoulder to shoulder in the car. It would be a very tight fit. So I don't know.
About a Morgan three-wheeler.
Oh yeah, Morgan three-wheelers are great. You can get it with the Spitfire graphics. That's how I want mine done. I want mine British Racing Green with the Spitfire graphics where it has the shark teeth on the side. That's what I want. But they're $50,000. What?
I'll have to Google it and check it out.
Yeah. It's an interesting story because Morgan back in the 1920s made a three-wheeler for tax reasons, because you could license a three-wheel car for the same cost as a motorcycle in Europe. And a company out in California was making a replica of the 1920s Morgans. Morgan made four-wheel cars, but Morgan, started making cars. They make it with an ash frame and they hammer the aluminum over the ash, and they still make cars basically the same way that they did in the 1920s. So they've survived. It's like if you go to this one island, there are dinosaurs there, right? That's the way Morgan is they're making modern cars the same way in the same shop that they made cars in the 1920s. But bless their heart, they went over and they looked at this cycle car, a three-wheeled cycle car replica that the company was making in California of the Morgan three-wheeler, and they liked it so well that they licensed it from the guy and put it into production. So the Morgan factory took this three-wheeler, the modern three-wheeler that the guy was making. He was using a Harley Davidson. The three-wheeler has a motorcycle engine in front of the front radiator, and then it's driven by chain drive to the rear wheel, one wheel in the back, two wheels in the front. So the company was using a Harley Davidson engine, but Harley Davidson wouldn't negotiate with Morgan, and so they're using an S&S engines, which is kind of a similar but different engine that's like a Harley engine, but it sits there in front of the radiator. So they're marvelous little cars, but you could only use it as a weekend car because no top, no weather protection, no windows, sits down low, so might not be fun in traffic, no air conditioning, poor heating. Just a fun.
I'm looking at it now. It's interesting looking. It'll certainly get a lot of conversations going.
You would get a lot of pictures and waves in that car.
Right.
But yeah, it would be miserable any other time. As one of the reviews said, there are 2 days a year that this would be ideal. Like on June the 14th, if it's not raining and you wanted to go pick up your friend and take him to the pub for a beer, this would be the perfect car to take. But there's only probably like 2 days a year that it would be the ideal car. All the rest of the time, you'd be miserable. Now, that's the disadvantage of the regular Morgans too, is that none of them have roll-up windows. And so the technology level I'm willing to sink to is you must have roll-up windows. Like my Duke Roadster, no roll-up windows. I don't want another Roadster with no roll-up windows. In other words, I want windows, not side curtains.
Right. Did the Duke have a top on it?
Yeah, it had a top I never used. You know, it had top and side curtains, and I put the top up a couple of times when I was when it was at the waiting for inspection, and I was terrified it was about to rain. Then I put the top up, but it had a manual top with bows. You kind of tuck the top into the very front. And that's very similar to how these Morgans would work. The virtue of the Morgan, of course, would be that it's a real car from an English manufacturer, you know, as opposed to the Duke was a replica of a Jaguar.
Right.
But neither one of them are Cadillacs. And so me being a Cadillac fan, then that leads me back to 40s, 50s, 60s, 90s, and 2000 convertibles, wanting a convertible. And so the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, they're too big. I went and shopped them at one of these 600 car places where you can see cars from all different eras and hot rods, and realized that a 22-foot long car is bigger than I want. And so that's why the XLR is appealing to me, is short wheelbase. Short wheelbase, light, likely not to need me to be tinkering on it all the time.
Right.
Especially if I'm driving it, you know, on the weekends. But we'll see how all this works out. Now I got to hold my breath and see what I'm willing to pay for one is the problem. So that's
what you get for going and looking at the V's to start with, ain't it?
Well, but you know, I'm looking at all of them, but at first I said, well, I want a 789 non-supercharged because I don't need the extra opportunity for the supercharger to need maintenance. So, but I wanted a 789 because it had the 6-speed transmission instead of the 5-speed transmission, and I don't want the 4 because they just got the top out in the 4, and so maybe those have more top issues. Right. The 9, of course, they put the V hood on the 9, the bonnet, and they put little metal parts on the vents on the side. Don't care about that, but the V hood looks really striking on the 9. So then that got me to thinking I want a V because you can go all the way back to 2006 for the V, and it has the V hood, right?
Right.
So and that's kind of, I want that look. And so the other choice would be to buy a non-V and then get a V hood for it. But that's kind of against my moral sense too.
Like you were talking earlier about the grills.
Yeah, I don't want people to think that I'm trying to make it look like something it's not. And that's what crawled up my spine on the Duke, is that it was something it's not. So they have some new ads coming out for the CTSV involving a P51. I thought that was an interesting. I posted that on the site, but at gosee.us, GOSEE.us. Then they have some. Then they have some. Sorry if I messed up the video there for a moment. I accidentally hit my my gadget that lets me stream game video instead of hitting my screen share. Let me see if I can put on the screen share, and we'll go over to GoSee. Whoop. Screen share, full screen, start screen share. Go to GoSee. So can you see that, Mike?
Yes.
So they have a couple of interesting, I think these are upcoming advertisements where they're trying to emphasize the CTSV. And then they have a couple of inset kind of, and maybe this is the storyboard. The guy gets out of the P51 and walks over and gets into a CTSV. And so I support that sort of, you have to be a manly man to enjoy a Cadillac.
Yeah.
If that's what oh, good. On screen sharing now, what they've done is they put a stop at the top where when you're done screen sharing, you can just you go back and it has a menu there. But they used to have, they keep improving Google Plus. Now, one of the things I don't know is they said they're going to disconnect Google Plus from YouTube. We actually like the automatic connection between to Google Plus and YouTube because it causes, when we finish this conversation, it keeps it out on YouTube so that people can enjoy it. And hopefully that'll become an option where we can keep using Google Plus the way we have been using it in the future. But they keep improving it every time we log in on Thursday nights to have these chats. Then something's changed, and hopefully they will continue to do so. So what kind of maintenance things have you had to do on your XL RV, Mike?
The top. I had to have the top repaired once. Otherwise, I haven't had to do anything to it. Change the oil.
You went and got you a Tech 2 in case you had issues, right?
Right.
The thought process?
I wanted to. Well, I can use it on other cars, but I wanted it for that also.
I think that's more popular with the XLR gang, because the idea is that as part of the top procedure, you need a Tech 2 in order to relearn, you have the top relearn its movement, right?
Right.
And so
that's something I haven't done yet.
So people were wanting to have one available to them. But the Tech 2 is a couple of $1,000, right?
They have, I am assuming the one I have is a clone. I don't know that. It was
based on what you paid
bucks
for it. Based on what you paid for it, you feel that it might be a clone.
Right. And what do I care if it works?
Yeah, as long as it works
properly,
it updates and you can get done what you wanted to get done, then I think I concur.
It's not going to need updates. I mean, there won't be updates for the XLR anymore. It's all old stuff now anyway.
Now, I was keeping an eye out on, there's a 7 non-supercharged XLR here in the neighborhood. It's actually out on eBay, but I'm going to hit full screen again and we'll start screen share. But it's the blue. I think the blue is striking on these cars. And as I say, it's a normal XLR, a 2007 model. And so here I would say the contrast of the front grille with the blue is actually good.
Right.
I don't see anything remarkable about it. I don't like the wheels as much on the non-V.
Right.
the way they did the center cap reinforcing the lines and so on, and it looks very plastic. But these are sharp looking cars though. And see, there's that wood steering wheel I want.
Uh-huh.
And that would be a 7. The normal North Star. Now I'm still sorry that I missed the opportunity in case the one that I didn't get to buy had headers on it. That's and they never would send me a picture of the engine compartment, and they never would send me a picture of the seats. So I wasn't in a position to make a figure out the rest of it without the rest of the information. But I would have at least liked to have had some pictures of the engine compartment to see if it had headers on it or not. And they might not necessarily have shown that, but and the clue was in the Carfax. It said they had replaced the exhaust manifold along the way. Now they'd also replaced the air conditioning compressor, which was odd. Unless they installed, have you ever seen that the system that ties up your air conditioning compressor and your intercooler coolant loop?
Right, I've heard about it, but I've not seen it. No.
Yeah, I talked to that guy, one of the guys in Florida that was doing that, about doing that for the SCSV, but he didn't have a kit. And he'd been trying 3 years to get somebody to bring their SCSV down to Florida, but hadn't got anybody to show up yet. So that should probably be one of my projects once I get if I get another car in the driveway, is send my STSV to Florida and get the get the cooling done so I can drive it in Texas. Right. But the idea is that you use a fluid-to-fluid heat exchanger between the Freon and the intercooler coolant, and you lower the temperature of your intercooler coolant by 50 degrees or so, and then that allows you to avoid pulling timing due to high intake air temperatures, with the disadvantage of reduces some of your air conditioning capacity when you're using it in that way.
It would I guess it would heat it up so your air conditioner couldn't work as good, huh?
Yeah, there'd be that challenge, but our cars have so much more air conditioning than I ever need that I don't worry about that too much. Motorman had posted a preview of the 2016 CTSV with Cadillac Chief Engineer Dave Leon. I posted that on the site as well for comment. So have a look at that for those of you watching at home, so because we get a few more details about the CTSV and what some of their design thinking was. I was looking at it, the Road and Track pointed out the 0 to 60 and quarter mile times of the new ATS V Sport with the 464 LF4 engine are 1/10 of a second better than the CTS V Sport. The new ATS V with the high output engine and the lightweight is only 1/10 of a second better than the CTS V Sport with the LF3 420 horsepower twin turbo V6, making the V Sport the much better deal in that bargain. You know, certainly the ATS-V is going to be the boy racer, but I think that makes you can get a nice CTS-V Sport premium for around $46,000 at the moment instead of the $70,000 that the ATS-V is going to command if it doesn't have a dealer markup.
The CTS-V Sport, that's a CTS-V, or is there a separate?
It's in between. The CTS-V has the supercharged V8. The CTS-V Sport has a turbocharged V6. So it has a twin turbo 3.6 liter V6, and so for 420 horsepower. And so that's the same family of engine that went into the new ATS-V, but where that car has a low pressure turbocharger, the ATS-V got a higher pressure turbocharger and some more go fast goodies, and so it makes 464 horsepower instead of 420. But I think both those cars are underrated because the turbos are are designed to be smaller than the engine actually needs because they're trying to boost the torque, the low torque, and not the maximum horsepower. So the turbos don't blow all the way to red line, don't keep up all the way to red line's the problem. But it gives them tons of torque, which makes the twin turbo V6s drive just like a nice big V8. Don't sound the same as a nice big V8, but they have the same performance capabilities as a nice big V8.
I'm going to have to find one and listen to it. I don't have any idea what it sounds like.
Well, but that's my target for that was my target for my next car after my SCSV was the CTSV Sport. Now, if I do end up as the gentleman on the XLR forum is suggesting driving the XLR more, then I'll probably keep my SCSV for an extended period. Maybe keep it 3 or 4 more years. And then keep putting money in my pocket and wait and see until the ATSVs come down in price, or until the new CTSVs come down in price, or once as Cadillac Jim pointed out, once the 3rd generation CTSV is out, we may see a precipitous drop in the price of the current CTSVs, which have held their value pretty well, right? But as more people switch over to the new cars, then we may see more, the prices come down on those a bit.
It would seem like it.
Yeah. So, but the new ones are going to have the heads-up display and all the gadgets where the current ones don't, and that still gives me pause coming out of my highfalutin SCS with all the gadgets in it. That going to a car without so many gadgets, even though it's got huge horsepower, then Road and Track named the 10 most beautiful cars of all time, I think, and or of recent times. And one of the cars they included was the Cadillac CTSV station wagon.
Really?
They said it is exactly what it appears to be. It is too much power in a station wagon format, and it just doesn't care. And if you don't like it, it just doesn't care. You could get it with a manual transmission and a 556 horsepower supercharged V8, and it just doesn't care if you don't like it.
So was that car heavier?
Yes. It was heavier than anything. because station wagon. But no, I think it wasn't that, all things considered, it wasn't that much heavier. Let's look and see if I can get a weight spec for it right quick. But the CTSV weighs, I want to say 4,200 pounds. And so the CTSV wagon, I bet, added 200 pounds just from the weight of the wagon. But when in that range, a little more weight isn't going to make that much difference because it has so much power. You can't use all the power anyway. And so a little more weight's not going to be terrible.
Right, I guess, depending on what you're wanting to do with it.
Yeah, if you could make it lighter, certainly make it lighter. But I don't think it was a game changer. And the performance, it didn't seem to lose. It lost a couple of tenths, as I recall, in the test, but it was right in there with the CTS sedan or the CTS coupe. Now, I think if I were getting a CTSV, though, I would get the CTSV coupe with the stick as my go-with car, because those are kind of rolling art, and I think a stick shift would be a ball with the LSA 556 horsepower engine. And roll it right over to LG Motorsports and have them turn it into a 700 horsepower engine. Mm-hmm. And then make my 7-mile commute every day. There are 18 gas stations along the way, so I should be okay.
Surely you can make it.
Yeah. They did say the new CTSVs are going to get about 20 miles per gallon, 21 miles per gallon on the highway. So because of, I guess, the cylinder deactivation, because they can run as a V4 with the new LT4 supercharged engine, 6.4 liter engine. they're still having a little trouble with those engines eating themselves occasionally, and so we're waiting to hear what's the root cause of that. And I think General Motors is still kind of scratching their head, but hopefully they get that figured out too. Sweet. That's very frustrating for new car owners if they have to go get a new engine in their new car. So we don't want to hear that out on the forums. So hopefully they'll get that taken care of. Okay. Any things about your XLR that, gosh, you wish somebody had warned you about that before you bought it?
Well, the affected me in particular, but a guy 6'2" to 6'4", somewhere in there or bigger, not gonna like it. Which didn't matter to me, you know. As it turns out, I'm not that tall.
You just can't get the seat the right place.
Well, they don't go back that far. The roll bar behind it, and there's nothing back there but the, I don't know what you call it, the back wall, you know, of the cabin.
Yeah. But
and as far as if I was buying a new one, I'd be thrilled. It didn't have remote start. I would have thought it would have had it, but it doesn't.
I would have said it had it too, because I've got remote start on my STSV.
Right. It's just surprising that it doesn't to me. But otherwise, no, I can't say any.
Have you run the tires off of it?
Yeah, I've got my second set of tires on it.
And how many miles?
It's got 30,000, 33,000, something like that.
So you bought it from new, or you bought it with some miles on it?
No, I bought it with 17,000 on it, and the tires were good, and the rear ones wore out, and the front ones were still usable, getting down, but they weren't needing replaced, and the rear ones were needing replaced. So I just got them all because I got a deal from a guy that went from an XLR to a CTSD.
But you got your second set in 13,000 miles, or you mean the set that's on there, you got it 17,000 miles and they're still okay?
No, when I bought it, it had 17,000 and they were fine. And they were out and I can't tell you when I bought them. I'm going to say just under 30,000. So these have probably got a little bit less than 5,000 since I've had them, and they're still really good. Yeah,
my STSV, I generally go through a set of tires a year. Something, so 15,000 miles and a set of tires. It mostly come from cornering too hard, I believe. Okay, right. A little bit of rubber lost in gear changes and so on, but mostly from not slowing down in the corners and just letting the car charge through.
A guy can get a ticket doing that, as I have.
I tend not to go over the speed limit. It's just enjoying the capability of the car. So if you're going 40, if you're going 40 and you come to a 90-degree turn and the speed limit is still 40 after the 90-degree turn, then the question is, how much do you have to slow down to go through the 90-degree turn?
Well, according to the cop that wrote me that ticket, you may be. First, he came up there and said I was exhibition of speed, and I said, well, I went around to watch. I can't be exhibiting speed. But he still wrote me one for going too fast, though there was no posted speed limit.
Did you slide the car? Or the
no, it was still in my own lane and stuff. The tires might have been making some noise. And I admitted to the guy that I was going fast, but not out of control fast.
Take it to court. Get yourself thrown into jail.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a good time to have the camera in the car and then go to court and say, look, here was my speed. And da-da-da. It was all good.
I tried. I had actually been to Walmart and I had groceries in the car.
Oh, so no time.
The groceries didn't fall over, didn't spill out of the bags or anything. And I said to the guy, I said, I haven't even spilled any groceries. You really think I deserve a ticket? He didn't respond to that. He just gave me the ticket.
And bless the police. They have such a hard job that I don't want to encourage anybody to give them a hard day. But certainly I don't want a ticket just for going around the corner too fast if the car's under control and if you know, I don't know what he thought you were doing, but it sounds like he didn't understand. He didn't appreciate your driving skills.
Right. The ticket was for what is the ticket they write when you have a wreck? I talked to, there's a couple ex-cops that work at the railroad where I work, and I asked them their opinions of it, you know, and they said this ticket's almost always wrote when there's an accident, not excessive speed. That's what it was. Anyway, I paid my ticket, went on down to business or down the road, and I don't really badmouth the guy or nothing. You know, he did his job.
Now,
I just didn't agree with it.
Help me again, and you've told me this before, but tell me again, and I'll try and get it straight in my mind. What mods do you have on your XLRV?
Cold air and a tune, the box tune.
The cold air and the box tune, but not the exhaust.
Correct.
Okay. Cold air and the box tune, but not the exhaust. You have like the module that D3 sells. That's the box tune.
Right. That's what I have.
Okay. Okay. And then the D3 cold air intake. So basically, you have a stage 1 setup.
I think stage 2.
Or did the stage 1 include the? Or did the stage 1 include the exhaust?
I don't remember.
Now, did all that stuff? Was all that stuff on the car when you bought it, or you went to California and got it?
Neither. I bought used, same kind of deal as my tires. A guy had an XLRV, and he had bought. I don't know whether he went to D3 and bought them or where he got them, but he was selling his car for business purposes. He needed the money, and so of course he took the good stuff off and put it. And so he sold them to me for about half the price of new. And
now they have a stage 2 intake and a stage 1 intake. Have you looked at that?
I'm thinking the stage 1 was just the intake, and the stage 2 included maybe it's 1.5 or something.
Well, the stage 1 has like this Y where it has 2 filters coming out the front. The stage 2 has the pipes going all the way along the side.
I'd have to go. Well, I guess I could look at it. The one I bought has 2 filters out in the front, and the pipes are chrome going back to the. They go down both sides into the.
Yeah, it sounds like you have the stage 2.
And the only thing I would ever really probably wish that I would also do is probably the pulley change, just to see what it could do for it.
Yeah. Well, and at first we kind of got mixed of this shark bite kit, right? At first we kind of got mixed answers on that, but I think one of the guys with the XRV actually still stands by his that the shark bite kit was a good tune-up for the supercharger and so on. The Stegemeyer kit.
Oh, the snake bite
kit.
Right. I'm sure that all that would be, it'll be good. That one that they done for, I don't actually know his name. He went by Gizmo, but his was the first one they did. So he was kind of an experimental deal for them.
Yeah, they do other kinds of cars. I don't think that they'd seen very many Cadillacs through. They do a lot of Mustang superchargers and so on, and other Ford products. But yeah, and there was one of the STSV guys that had gone there and had it done, but then he said it caused so much vibration in his engine that he wished he'd never done it.
Really?
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird thing. And you know, one or two anecdotal evidence isn't the right way to decide. And I'm not saying that business isn't great. It's just, that's why I say we kind of had mixed reports. But yeah, I think our cars have so much performance that I don't know I think it can be a false positive about, one of the magazines took one of the full boat D3 modified XLRs and did tests on it and didn't find that it was much quicker or faster than the regular XLRV, and that it cornered much worse. They had put big wheels and wider tires on it and ruined the cornering. And so,
Oh yeah.
but they didn't do side-by-side testing. They did. We've got this one today, and let's look back at what our test reports were. So that really wasn't the best way to test. The best way to test would have been to get a stock XLRV and the D3 XLRV and run them together on the same day in the same place, and then see how they compare.
Temperature on that track would have made a lot of difference.
Exactly. One of the joys of the car magazines is that they're way up north, or they used to be way up north. And so when they ran tests, they ran it in cold air all the time, and the cars would run great. That if they come down here to Texas, or like one of the YouTube channels, they always test the cars at 5,000 feet. And so their 0 to 60 times is one are much worse than what you would expect because of the altitude. The cars can't get enough air in the intake. So
I looked at this D3, and yes, the stage 2 would be what I have, but mine is a chrome.
Yeah,
it looks really good chrome too.
The bottom view is supposed to be. I'm looking at their outlet shot, and the bottom view says it's the silver, but then the picture is the black. But mine's kind of like, see, when I looked at the stage 1 on the XLR, I said, well, they've turned the engine around, because in the SCSV, it breathes from the back, and then you have to bring, the air pipes come down the sides of the engine like in the stage 2, and then they go out to an air box that's in the left front. But I see in the stage 2 view that the XLR is actually the same way, where it breathes through the back, and the engine's turned around to breathe through the back.
Stage 1 looks like all they've done is add the K&N filters to the original piping.
Yes.
And the stage 2 pipes down both sides.
Yeah, I think the stage 2 would make the bigger difference, because even though Cadillac did a wonderful job of eliminating the blower whine at a very low cost and power, I actually like the whine, as I know you do, and I like the 20 horsepower difference, and so I'd rather have the intake and the whine than, and it's quite surprising to people when you pull alongside them and you accelerate and they hear that blower whine, then they know that it's a supercharged car and not just you have the stickers on the side. Right. Now, did you don't have the wind restrictor? Is that what you told me?
I do have a wind restrictor.
You do have a wind restrictor, and which one do you have? I know you told me before, but tell me again.
I have the Kingpin wind restrictor, and it lights up, and you could have a choice of sayings. The one that I have saying is, when you turn your car on, does it return to favor?
Fun.
I think that came from the commercial that Cadillac had. I read. Maybe it was
Kate,
a CTS. And,
Kate, I don't remember the actress's name, but yeah, she asked that after driving through, and I'll post a link to the commercial and the notes after the video. But so, Mike, thank you for being on tonight. We have gone again twice as long as we're supposed to only run the videos 30 minutes, because the ideal YouTube video is 3 minutes long. And so we're supposed to run no more than 30 minutes because people only want 30 minutes. And of course, we've run 55 and plus the warm-up time. If you're watching at home and you would like to take part in our chat, the way you do that is let me know. This is Bruce. Let me know that you want to be on the chat, and circle me on Google Plus and send me a note, and then we'll try and get you lined up. What we do these about is we like to talk about Cadillacs and current issues of the day involving Cadillacs. Generally, all of us drive Cadillac automobiles, sometimes performance automobiles. And so we get together on Thursdays and have these video chats to share stories. Mike, anything else you want to share with our audience?
No, it's been good chatting with you.
And a shout out to the guys who weren't able to be on tonight. And I hope everyone's well. And please come back and join us as soon as you can. Stand by, Mike. I'll hit stop broadcast, and then we'll just be on, not on the air.